Now listen up.
Insights EDU 2025 is almost here. Join us February 12th through 14th in New Orleans for the most anticipated higher education marketing and enrollment management event of the year.
I like that.
Imagine 3 action-packed days filled with game-changing insights, real-world case studies, and a hands-on workshop designed to transform your marketing strategy and boost your program enrollment. Learn from speakers at Google, Meta, Reddit, MIQ Digital, and top schools across the nation. Network with industry leaders, exchange ideas, and discover the tools to drive real results. This is your opportunity to stay ahead of the competition and meet the demands of today's modern learners. Don't wait. Spots are filling fast. Mark your calendar, rally your team, and head to insightsedu.com to register now. The era of the modern learner is here, and you need to be part of it. We'll see you in New Orleans.
Do you want to accelerate your professional development? Do you want to get exclusive early access to ad-free episodes, extended episodes, bonus episodes, original content? That's right, original content, invites to special events, and more? Do you want to get all this while helping to sustain EdUp? Then go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com and subscribe today.
Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to Ed Up on the Ed Up Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is Dr. Joe Salustio back with you on another episode, as if you didn't already know that after about 1,000 of these, that I would come back and do it again. But I do want to tell you guys, very recently, you know that this podcast passed 400,000 plays in higher ed. You think about a higher ed audience, you think about really, I think higher ed as an industry kind of late to the podcast game. But the EdUp Experience, we think we've helped redefine podcasting for a new age of college and university leadership, and 400,000 plays of our podcast, organic plays, I might add. Never spent any money on advertisements, never went out and begged anybody to listen, except I did beg my wife and my mom at the beginning when we started out doing this. And Elvin begged his wife too, co-founder, of course, of the EdUp Experience, Elvin Freitas. But 400,000 organic plays. And if you don't follow me on LinkedIn, you should, because I put out a weekly newsletter called the EdUp Wrap Up, which has passed its year anniversary with 43, I think, newsletters highlighting today's college and university presidents that I've interviewed on the podcast in written form. So you don't have to go back and listen to the entire episode if you don't want to. But I think it's been, I've had over 60,000 article reads on those newsletters. So it's, we have a great community continuing to grow as we as we celebrate the work being done in higher education today amidst plenty of negativity, and we got to make sure that we're telling the good stories here. And I've got somebody with me that tells good stories. She's getting out the vote at her institution right now, making sure that everybody's participating in the democratic process. She's in what I would say one of the states that has the most beautiful falls of any of the states out there, meaning the fall season. The leaves turn. Cold weather can sting in this state a little bit once it turns. Let's bring her to the microphone right now. Here she is. Ladies and gentlemen, she is Dr. Laura Douglas. She's president at Bristol Community College. Laura, welcome to an EdUp Mic. How are you?
Thanks, Joe. I'm fine. Great to be here today.
Thanks for listening to me opine and soapbox for a minute about all our accomplishments. But we're kind of proud that we get to interview people like you, Laura, and talk about some of the good stuff happening in higher ed today amidst what we know has been plenty of negativity around. But before we get into that, let's level set for the audience. Tell us about Bristol Community College, where you are, what do you do, and how do you do it?
Sure. Well, Bristol Community College is located in Bristol County, Massachusetts. And the funny thing is that we are right on the border with Rhode Island. So we have plenty of students from Rhode Island here as well. You can drive along the bottom of our county and you can go in and out between Rhode Island and Massachusetts many times. So we are right there. We're about 30 minutes to the gates to Cape Cod, the Bourne Bridge. And so we're on the beautiful coastal area of Massachusetts. Bristol County is actually the largest county in Massachusetts, and we have the largest number of veterans in all of Massachusetts concentrated here. Really great community supporting our veterans. We have 4 campuses in Bristol at Bristol Community College. We are a program of about 7,000 credit students. And we are in what we call 4 different gateway cities. And those gateway cities are known by having more kind of urban challenges. And as a result, we work really hard with local governments to make sure that our citizens have a great opportunity. When you think of Massachusetts, you think of a very well-educated state and a more wealthy state. But Bristol County is not so well educated. Only about 28% of our adults have a college degree. And in our 2 largest cities of Fall River and New Bedford, the median family income is just about $55,000. So to afford to live in Massachusetts is really quite difficult. So our biggest, hottest thing going right now is that this fall we provided free community college to all citizens, and our enrollment is up by 20% over last fall. And last fall, our enrollment was up with free community college for adults 25 and older. So we have really bounced back from those COVID days. And when I started in 2017, we were the 5th largest community college, and this fall we clocked in with headcount as the 3rd largest community college in Massachusetts. So it's nice to defy some of the enrollment challenges that have been out there. And of course, we can still do better, but I've got a fantastic team of faculty and staff that really works on serving our community.
Amazing.
Well, that's a heck of a description. In fact, I picked something out from what you said that I thought needs a little bit of a color. And the way you said it, I went, I know what you're saying. But I think from the audience, maybe not. You said 7,000 credit students, because that's the way we think in higher ed. We think all in terms of credit. And for whatever reason, that's how we report. We have to report credit students. But I know, and you know, that community colleges serve a whole lot of other students. And by other, I don't mean I don't mean like racially or demographically. I mean like other programs, non-credit programs, or I want to take a class and learn this skill. And we struggle with, well, how do we count this student? They're not a full-time enrolled. They're not even a part-time enrolled. They're taking a course. Is that success for us in community college, that somebody came in and took a course on how to be a better, electrical, do better electrical, and then went and did it? How do I say that's successful if they didn't continue on? Isn't it? So anyway, I thought that designation was really interesting, because I think that's a really funny spot community colleges have to operate in. Don't you think?
It is, and even the time of measurement. So credit is easy because it's a semester, right? We all know we've got fall semester, spring semester, maybe winter session, summer semester. But in our non-credit, they don't adhere at all to those semester guidelines. So yes, we always have probably close to 800 adult ed students, which is English as a second language, as well as GED and HiSET.
Right.
And then all the other workforce development and corporate clients that we have beyond that. So it's at any one time, it's hard to kind of put your finger on a number.
Yeah, and it's so important, because a student coming in one of your adult programs, getting a GED and deciding to take a course here and there is, I think, great success, especially if they didn't have it before, obviously. And did they go on to an associate degree? Maybe not, right. But that means you were still successful, but you have no way to communicate that externally beyond your own efforts. It's not like we're collecting information, so I think that's just one of the nuances of operating in a community college that we have to continually call out, is all this other work that doesn't add up to what we think is credits.
That's right.
See, I know a thing or two every now and then.
You sure do.
Sarah.
Yeah.
What about, you talked about military. Is there a base or bases in the area, or is this just a place where military families land?
Yeah, it's just been a tradition for this area, and in fact, we have the only state memorial for 9/11. We have a World War II memorial, and we have a mini replica of the Vietnam wall in Fall River that was just put up several years ago through a very nice fundraising activity. And the college has a veterans center, a dedicated veterans center. We often serve between 150 and 200 veteran students. And that's a very important part of what we do, connecting them to resources, helping them navigate veterans benefits, but probably the most successful part of that is just getting them engaged in student life and helping them develop leadership skills that really help them later in life. So, or while they're working and going to school. So it's a real pride point for us.
Outstanding.
We very much support military and military families. And, credit for prior learning is something that military families, I think military members, servicemen and women are always looking for. Like, I've done this stuff in the military and very intense stuff, maybe more intense than the rest of us will ever do in our lives. And what does that mean for credit? How do I think about this? Is that something that you're talking about at Bristol often?
Yeah, you're very astute to bring that up because this has been, we have the non-veteran or non-military group that also probably has a lot of work experience. When our average student is 25, yes, you already have some work experience, but certainly with the military, and that crosswalk is not an easy one. It has been a part of our strategic plan to develop credit for prior learning. We actually have a faculty fellow to help with that, but we have transferred a lot of that operations to our admissions operation, and we onboard that with our customer relations management program, Slate, so that we are able to ask every student coming in what type of credit they have. Now, it's still in its infancy, I'll tell you that, Joe. It's not as good as it should be, but we continue to work on credit for prior learning and try to figure out how we organize it within our institution. We've certainly landed that it needs to be a part of admissions, right? Right from the very beginning, we need to be working with students to make sure that they understand that their work experience is very meaningful. More to do.
I would say that if you're going to really work on CPL, the military is the best place to start because that what they've done is intense, right? Versus, the general pop who takes a class here, does this course online. You've got to really work to try to figure out how those add up. But for a medic in the military, it's like, okay, what does that mean for a health program? And I think that's the basis for figuring out. So I'll give you a lot of credit for doing that. And it's something that I'm passionate about here. And many other college presidents are working on it too, but it is not an easy thing, especially with over, for the general public, it's like 1.3 million different credentials right now, according to Credential Engine. How do you sift through what has value? And I always say, like my cousins, brothers, uncles, sisters, father, cousin Vinny, who offers a real estate course. What does that do in terms of credit? It puts a lot of pressure on you as a college president and your team to go, yeah, we want to take these things, but we have to make sure there's rigor in them. We have to make sure that the faculty understands. So there's a lot of people to engage in that process, right?
Right. And those credit for prior learning courses are often the foundation courses, right? So you do need to make sure that they provide the information and knowledge that you're going to need to go to the second step beyond that. So yes, it's a challenge, but we're up for it.
That's great. And it sounds like you have a lot of adults to serve, and you just blew my mind because I absolutely assumed what you said, which is that you probably have a pretty educated population in the state. 28% of adults, only 8% of adults have a college degree. Way lower than I would have anticipated. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity there. Why do you think we, the general public, might assume that 28% should be much higher in the state? Is it because of the political sphere, the reputation, what do you think it is?
Yeah, Boston has a great reputation for an educated workforce, and of course, the first higher ed institution in our country was born here in Massachusetts, and then the tradition of private education followed very rapidly. So we have just so many institutions of higher learning in Massachusetts. But in Boston, it's over 70% of the adult population has a college degree. And, I think people don't realize that Massachusetts is still a place where we have a lot of incoming migration. In our area here in Bristol County, we are overwhelmingly Portuguese. From the Azores, the islands that are halfway between here and Europe. And the immigration patterns were very definite. At the turn of the century in the 1900s, New Bedford was a whaling capital. It's where we got all of our oil and the grease that was needed for all of our manufacturing. When the whaling industry started to die, Fall River came in as another rich location for cotton mills. My grandfather was born here. His parents immigrated from Ireland to work in the cotton mills. He repaired the looms, and then my great-grandmother worked those looms. And so we had immigrants from Ireland, from the French-Canadian side of Canada, and then from Portugal, due to a number of factors, including a terrible volcanic eruption. And people came over to work in the mills, and then when the volcanic eruption occurred, then families came in great quantities. The immigration laws changed to accommodate these people. And in this area of the Azores, there's not a great tradition of going to college. So that has often informed the way families think here. And in fact, some people will say to me, I'm a Mason and I only have a high school diploma, and that's been enough for me. So why isn't that enough for my own child? And, we certainly believe in the trades, but we also recognize that in a place like Massachusetts, where we are a knowledge-based community, that becomes very, very important. So as I came here and I studied the culture, I really felt that part of my legacy is to create this college-going culture. And we've been doing that really bit by bit with early college and dual enrollment and a lot of very focused outreach, technology. Our customer relations management technology has worked really well. And then, of course, when Free Community College came on board, my community was one of the best communities to respond. They really saw that as their opportunity because they are a low-wage earning county. So it's been great to tell the story of people sometimes just can't go to college because they can't afford it, and or they don't think they can afford it. Many of our students that came in through Free Community College would have been eligible for financial aid. Would have been eligible, but they didn't know that. Last fall, when we started our Mass Reconnect for 25 and older, for every student that got $1 of Massachusetts funds, there were 1.3 students that required no Massachusetts funding because all of their education was paid through federal financial aid. So that was truly a great story, and that has spread like wildfire through our area. That Free Community College is something that you should check out. It's a great opportunity. You can do it part-time, you can do it full-time, but it will definitely change your trajectory.
Tell them like it is.
I love it. And what's interesting about that is the part where you said most students don't know that they can get financial. Students discount themselves from financial aid before they even check it out.
Exactly.
They just go, well, I'll never qualify for any of that. So it's just, I'm not even going to try. And you go,
yeah,
wait
they think their mom and dads are working, right? So
yeah.
Mom works here, dad works here. So how could I possibly qualify? What they don't realize is that mom and dad are only making $25,000 to $30,000 a year, and combine those two incomes at $55,000. That's, you're gonna probably get some financial aid.
Exactly, and it is actually it's such an intimidating process, and we know what FAFSA has done to students, the FAFSA simplification, what that has, the consequences, both, I think, in future positive, but up to this point, not so positive, with dissuading people, or it's been late. Now you go to Free Community College. All right. So now this is I would say this is a model change for you. Mm-hmm. So when you look at funding, and you look at all these other things that you have to look at, paying employees, tuition revenue, how quickly have you had to kind of rejigger your model now that you have Free Community College? You've had to move resources to support, right? Because you have less tuition revenue coming in, so you don't have to use that tuition to pay for the services. Now you have the funding to pay for the services, but now the money moves all different directions. What have you had to do? Like, give us a under the hood look at a couple of the changes you've had to make.
You just made the list.
Mark your calendars for Insights EDU 2025, February 12th through 14th. Insights EDU 2025 is the can't-miss higher education marketing and enrollment management conference of the year. We're taking over New Orleans with speakers from Google, Meta, Reddit, MIQ Digital, and top schools across the country. Discover how AI is transforming marketing and enrollment management, how to assess online program opportunities, and meet the demands of today's modern learner. Don't wait. Spots are going quickly. Register now at insightsedu.com. Welcome to the era of the modern learner.
Let's go.
Do you want to get exclusive early access to ad-free episodes, extended episodes, bonus episodes, original content, invites to special events, and more? Do you want to accelerate your professional development? Do you want to get all this while helping to sustain EdUp? Then go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com and become a subscriber today.
Yeah, that's a great question. So it was about 2 years ago that we started working on Mass Reconnect, the free community college for 25 and older. And we worked with Maura Healey, our new-ish governor, before while she was campaigning. We wanted to see if we could make this model work and really look to Michigan and Tennessee as a model. And we had already in Massachusetts been doing some very special advocacy with our legislature on a program we call Success. And the Success program was a way for us to get additional funding to support students who are in high need categories. And our funding is not very great in Massachusetts for our community colleges. And we knew that we could do better with our students if we just had more money for advising and better advising loads and services to help our LGBTQ students and our Latino population, our Black population, our Portuguese populations. So we actually advocated for additional funding in Massachusetts, and we received it. And
Let's go.
Yeah, I know, right? And so we have to keep very close tabs and record a lot of the data, but the early data show that we are doing good work in this space. So with that additional money, Joe, we began to bring on more advisors. We had already taken on a holistic advising process. We began a basic needs center. We did all of this other work so that when Mass Reconnect came on, we knew that we had the infrastructure already in place, which was really very important because the students that are coming to us through the free community college, many of them have higher needs.
Yeah.
Some of them are coming back to college after many years and need nothing. They're motivated, but others really do need that help, especially those who are the 18-year-olds, right? Because they were part of the COVID high school years and come in. Many of them come in with a little bit of a deficit of learning. They just missed out on so much. And so that infrastructure really helped us. And if we had just gone from 0 to 100 for free community college without Success, I think we would have been in big trouble. Another thing that happened was that for the last 10 years, our enrollment had been going down, like most community colleges. And then we had a big decline during COVID. And because of the money that we got during COVID, we were able to keep our workforce at the same levels as before. So our workforce really hadn't changed since, 2014. And so when we have had our influx of students these last 2 years, we have the staffing levels that are basically necessary, but we've had to add in some layers. So many students now want online learning. So that means that we have to recruit and train many more instructors to be successful in that space. And we have taken on a heavy number of advisors as well as navigators. We brought in a new classification of navigators. So in our admissions area, for example, our admissions staff were basically paper pushers, right? They were in charge of making sure, right, I got to get your application and where's your FAFSA, where's this, where's that, where's your transcript? But those weren't the best people necessarily to talk to students about Well, what do you think you'd like to do? This is why you need to do it. Let me make sure you follow through. And so we created a whole strata of navigators to help all those people when they first walk through the door to make sure that they complete that admissions process and that they have good direction and then they're ready for the handoff. One of the things we added this fall is a mandatory new student orientation. I know many people say, don't want to do it. That's too, and we do that before they actually register. We've had phenomenal success with that. And that allows students to kind of go to their navigators, get initial onboarding, do the new student orientation, then they meet with their advisor, they're advised, they get their classes, and they're ready to go. And we've had really low attrition, and this seems to be working out really well. So we'll be evaluating it as we go this year, but really all indicators show that this was a good new layer to add to help students with that extra mile.
I really like the concept of navigators. I like the name, actually, navigators, for a couple of reasons. One, you're not necessary. You still have to sell the idea of education to somebody, right? You have to make them believe in themselves, which is what I think a navigator can do. Even when something is free, even when education is quote unquote free community college, students still have to be convinced that they can do it. Like they have the opportunity, we have to build self-confidence in those students. They could go, you know what, I will take advantage of this because that homework is still scary. The time investment I have to have is still scary. Those things aren't free. I still have to invest in time. And I got 2 kids crawling up my leg and I got a job. I got 2 or 3 jobs I got to go to. So it's not as easy as it sounds either. I think there's an assumption sometimes from people I talk to, like, oh yeah, free community college. It's just going to be lining up at the door, knocking them down. Everything's free. And it's like, you would be really surprised at how hard it is still to convince somebody to take advantage of free education because there's work involved and time. And these are things that students get freaked out about. Don't you think?
Yes, they really do. And, it's the littlest thing that can make a student walk away, right?
Yes.
It could be a bad experience. It's maybe that they've done their FAFSA, except their parents haven't submitted their taxes and that, oh, I can't do it now. And, how do you coach them through that? And, how do you talk to your parent or how do you do this or that to get all those pieces done? And, in enrollment management, we all know that it's one thing to fill out that application. That's fast, right? 5 minutes, 10 minutes tops to fill out an application. Real easy. But to go from application to financial aid, and you have to apply for the financial aid, you have to do the FAFSA for free community college.
Yep.
And then all the other pieces that you need, there are lots of reasons to go right off the ramp. And then eventually what you want them to do is get their, self in a seat. But that process is long and there are many opportunities for them to drop out. But what really matters is when they come in the door and they do their application and they get into that seat and they start to take their classes. That's our moment for celebration. And it does not come easy.
Yeah, it's a interesting phenomenon, right? It is an interesting phenomenon when you think about what free really means, because free isn't just money. It's everything else around you that you have to invest in. So that means retention is still real. That means that just because it's free doesn't mean that you don't have to do any of the retention work because it's in the college's best interest and the states where the funding is coming from to ensure that student sticks and completes and ideally transfers to a 4-year, right? I mean, I think that's
Yes. And it was interesting when we were advocating for free community college, there were a number of naysayers. I would talk to people in the community and they would say, yeah, I don't really like this notion of free community college. I like to see some skin in the game. And that's when I usually talk about the skin in the game that community college students have, right? So you mentioned it. They're working. They've got kids. They suffer from time poverty. They do not have time. So they are making the time to do this in addition to all their other things. So that's their skin in the game. They still have to manage transportation, getting the kids to school or to daycare, or taking care of mom and dad, and juggling a few part-time jobs and their schoolwork and everything else. There's such a commitment of time that people don't realize. Living is hard today, right? It takes up a lot of our time, and to squeeze something else in like a college degree is not easy. But so many students tell me, you know what, Laura, they say, I do not take this opportunity for granted. I know what this means to me and my family, and I am not going to screw it up. And one of the interesting things, the interesting story that I tell our legislators is that when we started last fall of 2023 with Mass Reconnect, we had a very good enrollment surge, and they have to take a minimum of 6 credits, so about 2 classes, and they have so many years to finish their 2-year degree as a part-time student or a full-time student. And so they started in the fall, and then they continued in the spring with 6 credits. And you know what else they did? They continued in the summer. So we added some Mass Reconnect students, first-time students in the fall, some in the spring because they couldn't get it together for fall because they didn't approve it until July. But by the time summer rolled around, all those students were continuing. We had our best summer enrollment since 2014, in a decade, because they are persisting. And that shows that this is working, that they don't take it for granted. They're in it to win it, and they know the requirements. And I think everybody needs to be converted to free community college, because it is a game changer, and it's for our workforce, right? We don't have the workforce to attract business and industry if we don't have a trainable or trained or educated workforce.
Yeah, we know, and so many others listen to this podcast know that the connection to employers is so important. Employers are dying for good talent. We have artificial intelligence rearing its head, and people are wondering, what are the jobs I'm supposed to get into? Are they going to be around? What should I do now? And it's like the connection with the employer that adds clarity. Like, these are the pathways. Can you talk a little bit about the public-private partnerships, the Triple P, that you're working on? Because I know when you're a community college, you're really serving the community, which includes businesses.
Sure. Well, I have a really great example, and that is offshore wind. So Massachusetts, offshore wind. Yes. Right. Massachusetts is located at a place on the eastern seaboard where we have some of the strongest winds, Joe. We call them well, doesn't matter. But anyway, it's
how strong are we talking?
Sometimes they're called the Saudi Arabia of winds here, because it's so windy and it's so constant. It's like the wind never dies. So in some places, the wind comes, it goes. It is constant in Massachusetts. We have another wonderful geographic feature. We have a low ocean shelf. So all of our wonderful scallops in the U.S., most of it comes from right off of Massachusetts on this wonderful low shelf where we can troll and get these wonderful scallops. But that low ocean shelf also means that we can mount wind turbines to the ocean floor, not too far from the coast. So about 10 years ago, we began researching offshore wind. And then when I came to the school in 2017, we continued that with strong intent. We did a couple of different tours to Europe to learn more about the industry. And we were beginning to work with developers to understand what they were going to need in order to bid on electricity here in Massachusetts so that they could build their wind farms. So we have now, probably for the last 5 years, been working with a number of developers. We currently have one wind farm that's going in place right now. That's Vineyard Wind. And we're also working with other developers in the area that will be coming in soon. So in order to have an offshore wind farm, you need trained workers.
Yep.
So we have just opened the National Offshore Wind Institute. It's the only one-stop training facility for offshore wind in the United States. Yep, and it is so cool. You train at heights, you do water safety, sea survival. We also have this training module or simulator. It's like the body of a helicopter, and
Mm-hmm.
we have a huge pool, and we move this little helicopter over the
That's
pool, and
cool.
we dump you in, and we turn you upside down, just like the simulated would be if a helicopter crashed in the ocean, and then you have to learn how to escape. But we also do basic safety training, basic technical training, first aid, blade repair, the big turbines. A blade is as long as a football field now, so they're very, very, very big.
I've seen them on
So
trucks sometimes. Like if you pass one of those things, it is insane how long it is.
that's right, but we can't put these ones on the road because these are so much longer for the ocean. They have to be
Yeah.
made oceanside and then go right on a ship. And so these partnerships are really important. So we have for example, some interesting partnerships where when these companies are bidding on these offshore wind farms in Massachusetts, they put forth a proposal, and that proposal might have to do with the price of the electricity, how it's going to come to shore, how it will be stored, and they also will need training because this is a worldwide certification called Global Wind Organization, and we are accredited to provide that training. But in these proposals, they put in that they will help support our offshore wind training institute as part of the economic development for our region because they want to train local people to work in this industry. And of course,
Right.
we have a lot of fishing in our area. So these folks who are in fishing can use some of their time when they're not fishing to work on the wind turbines and be a part of this really interesting industry. So we also have to train the supply chain. So for example, right now we're training people who are installing the elevators in those wind turbines. And you can't be on a wind turbine without GWO training. So we're the place, and it's really exciting to work with industry in this way, and really to be a part of their solution in any part of the supply chain of this industry. And it's very exciting. It's a little scary. It was certainly a risk that my board and our foundation took in order to help underwrite part of this. And of course, we were very lucky to get some government grants, but we had support from federal government, local government, and then private industry as well to make all of this work. So it's kind of an interesting one. And I tell people, Joe, it's every community college president's dream to bring a new industry to the United States. And that's what we've done here at Bristol Community College. It's the first training facility of any community college in the United States for offshore wind. Cool.
Laura, you said it's every community college president's dream, and then it kind of gave us my connection's probably unstable along with my general mental state. You want to repeat that part again?
Yeah, so I think it's every community college president's dream to be able to bring a new industry to our country, right?
Yeah.
It's for me personally, it's been really wonderful to research the industry of offshore wind, to go and visit countries that have industries in place, to convene with researchers and really say, we're gonna do this. We're gonna bring offshore wind to the United States, and we can't do that without training, and we're gonna be the ones to do it. And so we have non-credit training at the National Offshore Wind Institute. We call the NOWI, and we also have an associate degree in offshore wind and a 1-year certificate in offshore wind technician to support this industry.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
I love it. Have you personally been on an elevator up a wind turbine? Have you done it?
So no, you're not. I'm not allowed to be on a wind turbine because I'm not GWO certified.
Oh, lucky you.
But I have been. We do virtual reality, so that's one way that I've been in it. And then I have been in the nacelle, which is the top. We have some of those pieces where you can walk through and see that. And then we also do the training at height. So we have these simulated areas where you can go into the confined spaces and simulate the ladders of going up the wind turbine. I used to teach swimming and used to be a lifeguard. So I like anything to do with the water piece, the transfer from the vessel to the turbine. I like that training, or the helicopter training. That's my kind of deal.
And just to put this to rest, because a co-founder of this podcast, Elvin Freitas, will listen to these, and then he'll email sometimes the college president or me with some half-brained crazy ideas. No, podcasting from the helicopter thing underwater is not going to happen, Elvin. It is not going to happen.
Probably not.
He would call me and he'd go, "Do you think you could email Laura and see if you could podcast from the helicopter bed underwater?" And I'm like, "Dude, you got to be out of your mind." So anyway, well, that is something else. I mean, that is really a great story to be told here in higher education. I'm glad that you told us that story. And the point coming back around, and I wanted to ask you this earlier, but I was kind of waiting for the right moment. When we talk about educating that workforce in the state of Massachusetts, and you said it earlier, there's the first institution in the country was started there. Is there that's the only way we think about the state kind of thing happening? Do community colleges really have to communicate your place in the ecosphere of higher ed in the state of Massachusetts and beyond?
Yeah, we really do. And I think that I would say that in the last year and a few months with Free Community College, our place has really elevated in Massachusetts. It's kind of funny. You wouldn't necessarily think that. You might think, well, it's free. Maybe it gets cheapened that way. But we have become, maybe it's also part of the national climate that we have, but community colleges kind of are getting this place of being the little darling out there, right? Because we're not expensive. We train for all kinds of jobs. We're not snotty and saying, "Oh, you have to have a full college degree." Maybe a micro-credential is great. We do micro-credentials for cybersecurity, and people can make a great living wage off of that short-term credential, right? So I think that people have in the past looked down upon us, but they also see us doing some marvelous things.
Innovative.
Yes, and we are also capturing, even before Free Community College, we are some of the largest institutions in the public. We have 29 public institutions in Massachusetts. And yes, some of our UMass institutions are larger than Bristol Community College, but I have more undergraduates at Bristol Community College than UMass Dartmouth, which is 15 minutes down the street. So we have size, and we have some power, and we have really gained a lot of respect in Massachusetts. And that's a good thing, because New England, I wouldn't just say Massachusetts, can be a difficult place for a community college. And I think what we've really endured over time is this notion that, community college is just the first 2 years of a four-year degree. And that's, like we said at the beginning of the podcast, we're so much more than that because of all of our non-credit and, helping our adults get a high school diploma. That's huge. You can't go to college if you don't have a high school diploma, right? And so all of these pieces, I think we're really starting to see the community college become more respected and more understood. But it is always our sales job as community college presidents, no matter where we go, to talk about the benefits of community college. And, and I see that as a really big part of my job description is communicating with my legislators all the time about what is happening. And with Free Community College, I think those messages are just that much more frequent. Maybe every week, every other week, whenever the new data comes in, I will be talking about what this really means to their constituents. And that's a really big part of our job.
Can I get a witness?
Yes. I love when you preach on it, Laura, because it's such an important work. And we appreciate you. You've agreed to come back for a quick mini episode just only for our subscribers. So we're going to outro you, and then we'll bring you right back in. Ladies and gentlemen, she's doing incredible work at Bristol Community College. She is the one and only Dr. Laura Douglas, president at Bristol Community College. Check her out. She's on LinkedIn. Check out Bristol Community College online. What's the website?
bristolcc.edu.
Love it. Put you on the spot and you nailed it. I would have probably messed up my own website. Ladies and gentlemen, you've just upped. Attention, higher ed leaders. Are you ready to transform your marketing and enrollment strategy? Don't miss Insights EDU, February 12th through 14th in New Orleans, the premier conference for higher education marketing and enrollment management. Spots are filling fast. Register now at insightsedu.com. Welcome to the era of the modern learner.
Let's go! Do you want to get invites to special events? Do you want to get exclusive early access to ad-free episodes, extended episodes, bonus episodes, behind-the-scenes episodes, and original content? Do you want to accelerate your professional development? Then go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com and become a subscriber today.